this video, I thought we could go back and revisit the DC Direct Secret Files Series 3 Two-Face figure. Not only is this one of my favorite Two-Face figures from my collection, but it's also taken from my favorite Two-Face artwork featured in the comics. This particular Two-Face, complete from head to toe of his design, is derived from the DC Secret Files Special #1, where it featured Batman's vilest villains. That notable cover, you might remember, also had Riddler and a pretty neat looking designed penguin. It's one of my favorite comic covers of all time. And of all the things I've gotten rid of for comics, it's still the one issue that I still keep in my collection. So we'll look at Two-Face in a second, revisiting him as this, we've already done this video before. But let's first have a look at the display stand that he comes included with. The stands are similar to one another. There might be a slight variance with one over the other. I think one figure has like a manhole cover, but the rest of them kind of keep a consistent concrete sidewalk look to them. One singular peg, and I've actually still kept these. I haven't used them yet. There's these little clips here that sit in the little slots, the slots on either side, and ideally so, you could connect all the stands together until you have one long, essentially one long sidewalk. And I think one of them does have a manhole cover. Unfortunately, like, these figures have sat in storage, so I really haven't had a chance to showcase these, but maybe revisiting these figures will give me an opportunity to now put them rightfully so on display. Just because the age of the figures, I still think these figures hold the test of time, especially the Poison Ivy. So just a close look there, some nice cracks and little indentations there into the concrete. Concrete gives you, well, the airbrushing to the concrete gives you the general look, I think, that is very accomplishing. It does kind of look like concrete. So it does come with that. It does also come with a pair of pistols that are mirror copies to one another. This one does have some scratching to it, and I can't imagine that it was deliberate intent. Perhaps maybe over the course of time it's scratched, or maybe it just initially came out of packaging like that. But he does come with a pair of these, exactly the same. He does have the option to display them in both his hands, but really, for how cool his one other accessory is, when I did have him on display, I put one gun in one hand, and I kept the other hand free. The guns sit very loose into his fingers until you notice that there's a little slot in between the pointer finger and the rest of his fingers. Just enough clearance that you can get the finger slotted through to where supposedly a pistol trigger would be. You can do the exact same on his scarred hand. Again, just lining it up and taking the finger and slotting it through. It does a very good job of holding, not only holding, but also looking like it is an accurate way that he'd be holding the pistols, not just simply grabbing them as sometimes figures end up looking like. So you can display him with this, but let me just entertain an idea for you as well. One of the other really neat aspects of this particular figure, and it's one of the few times a Two-Face figure has come with this, and I'm actually even surprised I still have this, is this. He comes with a, and hopefully you can see it, he comes with a flipping coin. The top of the coin has been painted in silver, and even the smallest details, you can see that there is a head that's sculpted in onto the face of the coin, and also onto the other side. It's a little harder to make out, but it's really neat that the coin at the top is painted silver, and basically all the other flips, as he's flipped the coin, all the other flips basically are now showing as translucent, where the coin would have sat or would have rotated itself until reaching to the end. You can only really do this on the one hand. The other hand, because his thumb's kind of more closed in, you can't really do that. But even in the comic only has it on the flesh side, the non-scarred side. But you have this little ringlet right there, and you sit it just over his thumb. Again, I can't believe that this not only hasn't broken yet, but I just haven't lost it. I would imagine I would have lost it by now, but congratulations to Ziploc, the folks over there that gave me a bag. They didn't give me a bag, but I used one of their bags, and I keep all my figures individual with all their accessories, and luckily the coin accessories still stayed definitely would be displaying him. If I do get the option again to display these guys, which I really would love to, I definitely would display him with this flipping coin. I think for the sake of this review, let me just take this off of his finger and I'll put it to the side so I don't lose it. And let's have a look at the Two-Face figure. Now, overall, again, taking it from the fact that this is an older figure, the figure is pretty good. It's a little dated, but I think overall it looks pretty good. And the colors are consistent with the way it appears in the comics as well. On the comic, he does have half the one side an orange, and the other side being a gray, checkered, kind of gridded jacket. Now, there are some luxuries that have been made. The jacket, for example, in the cover is a much more exaggerated shoulder, and it has a little bit more wrinkles and stuff to it. But for how old the figure is, they kind of kept the majority of it consistent with the way that it appears. Let's have a look at his face. There we go. Again, the face is pretty good. Could have afforded a little bit more extra paint, more in favor of the one side that's scarred than the human side. The human side doesn't look too bad, but the scarred side could have afforded a little bit more paint. More importantly, if you ever look at the cover, the eye here has a very dark recessed area. In fact, actually, let me just use my camera here. Here's my phone. Here's the image right here that we're looking at, the comparison between the original source material and the Two-Face here. Now again, coloring could have been a little bit more better, a little more accurate. The hair is slightly off as well, but I do really like that dark area around the eye. I'd almost be inclined, I won't do this, but I would almost be inclined to probably go in there and just paint a little area around the eye socket, just so it would stand out a little bit more. The hair, again, doesn't translate as well as the comic cover. Right? The comic cover kind of has it more like individual strands, but that would be a very hard thing to accomplish with plastic without the fear, of course, of those hairs becoming ripped or breaking off. In this case, it kind of reads a little bit more like a moldy, kind of like a moldy cactus, or it actually kind of looks like seaweed or something like that. But overall, I can kind of overlook the fact that the face could have used a little bit more work, because again, I really like the design of this figure. I'm personally somebody that favors more so Two-Face having hair, a zany hairstyle, than completely bald. That's just my own personal preference. Maybe you guys can let me know down below if you prefer the more bald, scarred Two-Face, or if you like the more, classic, zany-haired Two-Face. When it comes to his posability, let's run through that together. We'll just bring the camera back a little bit here. There we go. For his posability, his head is on a ball joint. Kind of a little bit prickly, actually, when you rotate the head back and forth, because you're putting your fingers against the hair style. The arms hinge outward, forward and back. He does have a bend in the elbow, a rotation in the wrist. That can also be set on this side as well. Doesn't seem to have a waist swivel, but I like at least that the jacket, though you can't really do anything with it, at least is a softer rubbery appliance. Forward and back motion on your legs. A bend at the knee, and just a little wiggle, just a little rotation there on the foot. Because this is also a DC Direct figure, a lot of the older figures kind of have a really straight presentation to them. Because they don't hinge outward, the legs, you're basically getting a figure that only can rotate back and forth on the legs, but a very narrow looking Two-Face. I would almost say I wish this figure could have been revisited almost in the same way that I'm revisiting this figure. I wish that DC Collectibles now could go back and redo this figure. The chances of that are very slim to none. It's still one of my favorite Two-Face artworks of all time, and for that reason, I think maybe I might give this figure a little bit more of a pass than what I would normally. I don't know if I would say everybody's cup of tea, but I do really like the design aspects of this figure. The design choices that they went with, of course taking it from the comic initially coming up with these design choices. I think that, I really like how it translated to the figure. Dated, yes, but still pretty cool, especially if you can incorporate and still not manage to lose. So far, so good. You haven't managed to lose, and I just dropped it on the floor. Oh, goodness gracious. I know where it is though. It's right, I can see it. It's right there. I'm looking at it right now. So that's good. We haven't lost it. Today though, we were revisiting the fairly old figure actually. This was actually from one of my earliest videos. Kind of nice to go back and have a look at some of the figures. And this was kind of like, for me, the fun days of collecting figures. You know, where stuff was a little more simpler, stuff was a little bit more easier. There was a lot less figures making the market. So when you picked them up, there had so much more value, I think, to them. Nowadays, there's so many figures out in the market that sometimes it becomes a little overloading, that I'd like to go back time to time and look at some of the figures that I used to collect when I was a lot younger. A lot younger, too. That's a long time ago. Needless to say, today we were revisiting the DC Direct Secret Files Series 3 Two-Face figure. And yes, I do know that it's right there. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right now. And I can still look through the camera. I have an eye basically at the top of my forehead, and I have an eye down by my chin. I really should get that looked at. If you guys like this video, certainly hit it with a like. Let me know down below as well if you maybe had a chance to pick up some of these older figures and what you still think of them. Do you think they hold up today? Do you think they look a little dated? Let me know down below. And if you would like to see more, going back and looking at some of the older figures from my collection, let me know down below as well. If you guys haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and you won't miss a single video that's hitting this channel. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.